Italy against South Africa this weekend, folks, from Turin. These two teams continue their head-to-head matchups after the Italians toured South Africa earlier in the year. They get to play hosts this time as the South Africans come to town. Both teams flying high. The Italians got a good win over the Wallabies last week, made it 2 in a row for them. And the Springboks, on the back of that, emphatic 14-man victory over the French away from home, have made a whole heap of changes. And RASSIE, just when you think he's done with more ways to use the bench, has not chosen a replacement hooker. You see some teams do it with locks. They don't play a replacement lock. They put 2 loose forwards on the bench who aren't really locks, and then they put a big blindside flanker who can cover lock if needs be. RASSIE's doing that, but with a hooker, which I don't think I've seen done before. Marco van Staden is playing at number 8, and he's the hooker cover as well. It's just different. Just when you think he's done, how many more ways can he find to use the bench? He's already got the Andre Esterhuizen hybrid flanker and midfielder thing going on. He's done the 6-2s and 7-1s and all kinds of stuff. Now we're going with no hooker on the bench. So how many more has he got up his sleeve? I don't know. Every time you think he's done, he's got something else. Let's go through the two sides which have been named, some stats, some predictions, recent history within the sides, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how it is going to go. Let's start with the Italians because they are very much more in the let's keep it steady. Got a good victory last week. Let's keep the cohesion levels high because they've only made one change to the starting 15. Fischetti, Nicotera, and Riccioni are the front row, and Riccioni at tight head is the only change. He's a big, hard scrummaging tight head prop. If you don't know him, he plays for Saracens over in the Premiership. And he's their regular starting tight head prop. So the dude's a good scrummager. So is Fischetti. But I've said that about a few props ahead of games against the Springboks, like the All Blacks. And it didn't go that well. They were made to look not that good. Usually Fischetti and Riccioni are pretty good props to a tight head and loose head. But we'll see if the Springboks are able to expose them. The Springboks front row is looking kind of more experimental, lightish on caps, but that didn't seem to stop them last week anyway. But these are pretty good Italian props. So on paper, they should be able to get decent results at scrum time. I think if they can at least keep parity for much of the game, that'll put them in a much better position than if they are, if they go into the first scrum and just start conceding penalties, it could be a long day at the office. Cannone and Zambonin, that's Niccolò Cannone because there's 2 of the Cannones on this side, are your locks. Cannone's a big hard-hitting lock, and Zambonin's just another big lump, so they will work well. Vintcent, Zuliani, and Lorenzo Cannone, though, is maybe where the forward pack shines for the Italians and where a lot of the chat has come in because of their work at the breakdown. 2 of these guys in particular, Lorenzo Cannone last week, if you didn't see the game against the Wallabies, he was getting through the tackle count, and in particular, dominant tackles, pushing guys back, and it's him doing that kind of thing that allows a guy like Zuliani, who you South African fans would have seen when he came down to South Africa, real turnover merchant. If he's got the ball carriers going backwards from a Cannone tackle, Zuliani can just get straight over the ball. So that's, RASSIE talked about it in the press conference as well, absolutely going to be an area for the box to focus on and where the Italians will be looking to exploit. And then Vintcent at number 6, he's not the biggest number 6, but he's a really high work rate guy as well. So there's a lot of tackles in this Italian side. But they kind of have to be because they don't play with as much possession as their opposition. They know they're going to have to spend a lot of time defending, so they need to pick really hard-working guys, particularly in the loose. 9-10 is Varney and Garbisi. Again, with less ball, they have to be efficient with what they do. Varney set up both of the tries for the Italians last week from number 9, so that's kind of exactly what you're asking for. And then the midfield combo of Menoncello and Brex, they play probably more rugby together in the last couple of years than any midfield combo in Tier 1 rugby. They just basically select themselves. I know Menoncello, I think, played in South Africa this year. I think Brex was injured, but usually if they're both available, they play. They complement each other well. They've played so much rugby. They know each other's where they're going to be. Brex is always the right place at the right time. Menoncello is great at busting tackles, so they work together very well. And then Lynagh on the right wing got a try. Last week, Monty Ioane got a try on the left wing, so getting the ball wide, they can be dangerous. And then Capuozzo, South African fans must love that guy when you've seen him play because he's kind of got the kind of Colby vibes going on about him. He's not the biggest guy. He's pretty diminutive, but he's got those fast feet, and he can bamboozle guys when he gets that going. Whether he catches high balls or not will be a big tester for him this week as well. Remember, he can fill in at 9 as well. Like proper kind of Colby styles. The bench, Bartolomeo, Spagnola, and Ferrari. So Ferrari drops to the bench. He started tight head last week. He is on the bench for this one, but then they've brought in some of the beef with a 6-2 split this week rather than the 5-3 they had last week. So Rutzer is still there. Favretto is in, so another lock. So 2 locks on the bench. And then Odiase is another loose forward on the bench. So clearly the Italians are thinking it's going to be a big challenge for them up front. Page-Relo and Allen are the 2 backs, but Tommaso Allen can cover many positions in the back line. Likewise, many of the starting Italian backline players can be shifted around if needs be. But as I said, guys to highlight, Zuliani at the breakdown, Lorenzo Cannone with his tackles and his carries, and like Ioane, I guess if you're picking one of the backs to really, like that they look to get the ball to, he is one of their guys for sure. For the Boks, goodness me, they had to make a lot of changes. I think RASSIE tends to plan his teams out in advance, so this team would have already been picked before the French game, but I think the mass amount of changes helps because, as RASSIE mentioned in his preview for this game, that there's some tired bodies. Like playing with 14 guys for half the game means there's a lot of tired bodies in that Springbok camp. They're not bringing anyone in for Diaka, who's got a suspension, but that does mean that they have to make a bunch of changes because some guys will just need a break. The front row has been highlighted as a bit inexperienced, but once again, RASSIE has got experience up his sleeve on the bench in terms of the Bulls guys. So Fenta, RASSIE said that he's coming along nicely as the more experience he gets. He continues on at loose head. Grobler is there at hooker, up from the bench, and then Porthen gets another cap. So a big, I don't say congratulations because he already capped, but it feels like good. He's coming along nicely in his Springboks career. So not many caps in the Springboks front row. And the potential lack of cohesion is the one thing that Gonzalo Quesada, the Italian coach, said that like they'll be looking to maybe exploit. He said that the Boks are a brilliant side, but the one area is that they've made a lot of changes, whereas his side's cohesive. That's kind of the one advantage he's got up his sleeve as the Italian coach. But whether they can exploit it, whether the exploit is there to be taken, remains to be seen. As RASSIE said, Steenekamp and Lowe know each other really well, so if he needs to pull the pin on these guys to come on, they can come on. Klein and Mostert is an all-changed second row as well, and Kolisi is one of the few guys in that forward back to continue on at number 6. He still captains the side. Ben Jason Dixon is in there, big shoes to fill with Peter Steff getting a rest, and Marco van Staden, like I said, is number 8, but he's also the hooker cover. So be interesting to see if Grobler plays the 80 or if they do shift Van Staden in there at some point. Interesting 9-10 combo with Van der Berg, who I always think of as like this really kind of nippy, exciting halfback. I mean, to be fair, you've got Lynagh and Grant Williams, who are also really exciting 9s as well. But I like Van der Berg in terms of that exciting 9. And then you got the more conservative, I guess, slightly Handré Pollard there at 10. But Handré needs a game because he hasn't had a game for a wee while. Will they look to see him running the ball a bit or putting up some high balls to contest against the Italian backfield? Be an interesting one. But what I'm really excited about is the midfield. Ethan Hooker, remember he's been getting games on the wing, but he wants to play 12. He gets a crack here at 12, and then Caden Moody there at 13. That's some serious wheels in that Bok midfield. Again, defensively is going to be an area because the Italian midfield knows each other so well. Potential exploit, like the Italian coach said. But again, whether it comes off is always a different story. Van der Merwe there on the right wing. Kurtley Aronson continues on the left, and then Damien Villa continues on at fullback. He's going to be looking to get his offload game going if he takes the ball to the line. Replacements, Steenekamp and Lowe, your 2 props. As I said, there's no hooker, so you got Snyman in the 18 jersey, Nortje in the 19 jersey, so you got 2 locks. Andre Esterhuizen, I guess, as more of a flanker, but potentially the midfielder. He is the hybrid. Quagga Smith is back in. I think he had a hand issue a week ago, which potentially ruled him out, but he's back there. Grant Williams and Mani Libbok. Again, having a guy like Grant Williams who can cover, he's a halfback who can cover the wing as well, is certainly an extra string in his bow. And then Mani Libbok's been doing a bit of the super sub thing. So it'd be interesting, like if they bring Libbok on at 10 and then maybe move 100 to 12 or something like that. I don't know how to predict RASSIE's use of the bench, but there's certainly a few options there. He did mention that they're saving Thomas du Toit for next week because he won't be available for the Wales game because that'll be out of the test window. So he is getting a rest. Interestingly, like some of the guys who were their kind of key performers last week, Jasper Wiese carries for days, Sasha getting the defenders beaten in run meters and whatnot from 10. These guys are all absent for this one. So other guys to step up for the Boks. Some stats. The Italians last week had among their best go-forward ball of 2025, apart from like the Namibia game, which they played before they played the Springboks. So it was really nice to see them getting the go-forward from their loose forwards like Lorenzo Cannone, getting the ball out to these backs like Ioane, Menoncello, and Lynagh, who really are attacking-minded players, but still less possession. That is the story of the Italian team. They always, again, apart from the Namibia game, always have to live off 40-something% possession. And you know that's going to be true against the Boks, who are a team who like to play with the ball. Again, except maybe last week where they had 14 men on the field. It's one of the few games where they didn't have more of the ball. But I mean, great tackle percentage from the Italians. Won like 9 turnovers. They need to show as much of that as they can against the Boks. But yeah, South Africa has had less possession and territory against France. Maybe not surprising against the red card, but still managed 4 tries. Still managed 100% line out. Still managed 100% scrum. I mean, they might want the goal kicking a bit higher. Andre's back, so one would think the goal kicking will be higher. But yeah, there's still plenty of pleasing stats from the Boks, despite the fact that they actually had to play in a way which they are less familiar with last week. Recent history between these sides. Remember, the Italians have beaten the Boks once, but that was back in 2016. Last 5, it's 5-0 to the Boks. There was that game at Loftus earlier this year, which was 42-24, which was, that's still a pretty emphatic scoreline, but there were some really good positives there for the Italians, but then it was backed up with 45-0 the next week. Yeah, so average score is like 47-11. The games don't tend to be close between these sides, and the predictions are for it to be not too close at all. Interestingly, the bookies have only got the Boks by 19. I guess that reflects the sheer amount of changes they've made, whereas the Rugby Forecast algorithm, which just goes on the team's data rather than the actual player data, saying by 31. So the Boks, either way, are predicted to romp home pretty comfortably in this one. It is on at 1:40 in the afternoon over in Turin, which means I'm going to have to watch this one delayed because that makes it bang on 1:40 in the morning, my time, New Zealand, which is like too late for me to stay up and too early for me to get up. But I will certainly be watching it, so apologies if the review for this one is a wee bit delayed. There is a Kiwi connection with James Dolman being the ref. Fingers crossed he has a good game. Fingers crossed no cards for this one. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts on the game. What do you reckon is a decent margin for these sides? What do you think about RASSIE's changes on the bench? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, folks. Be good to chat some more rugby with you all. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.